Hey, welcome to the Inner Circle podcast, where growth minded leaders come together to build better businesses and better lives. I'm your host, Hector Alvarado. Here, we don't do theory, we share real lessons, real systems, and real strategies you can use right away. This is a community for people committed to growth, impact, and supporting each other on the journey. You're in the right room, my friends. Let's get started. Today is Cashflow Bottlenecks that break contractors, and it's the first one of a four-part series around cash flow efficiencies and controlling expenses. We're going to be talking through this all month long, and particularly in the back end of the month, we've got a special segment designed around AI principles and how that helps in today's world impact business principles. So we'll really be diving in to some of these. So I'm excited to kick off today with the cash flow that bottlenecks and breaks contractors. Now, when you think about this, you might think, well, is it for me? Is it that I'm a contractor? And really, it's how do you survive when you pay up front and get paid last? Right? So many contractors out there feel profitable. So many companies. You go out, you feel profitable, but you stay cash poor. And this is really a silent killer for a lot of great companies. And it's not because of bad workmanship. It's not because of bad clients. It's because of cash timing, right? So in this industry, in a lot of industries, in fact, you pay first while you get paid last, right? And so there's a gap, there's a window, and this is where companies really suffocate. And it's really tough to get over that. So let's break it down the OBS style so you can build a business in 2026 that will never let you starve again, right? So construction, general contractors, builders, landscapers in the hardscape space, or anybody really that's doing upfront work, right? If you're one of these businesses where you have upfront costs, you have to front the labor, you have to front the materials, you have to front the equipment, and everyone else gets paid, but you get paid last, right? Then this is for you. And it's insane when you really think about it, because the bigger the job, the bigger the crew, the more projects you stack, the more dangerous this really gets. Because growth increases revenue, 100%. I agree, it does, but it also increases the amount of cash that you have to float. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Some of you are doing 5, 6 jobs at once and wondering, why am I busier than ever, but still broke? I've seen it. I've seen it in live action. I have a hardscape, company that is in fact in that spot. 6 construction jobs, 6 different well-paying jobs, but cash poor, right? And so let's walk into the truth of that. And so, the illusion of profitability. On paper, you look great. Jobs are booked, crews are working, materials are delivered, and money's coming in. Eventually. Eventually. Not now, but eventually. And that's the trap. Profit doesn't pay the bills. It's cash. Cash pays them. And so if you're in that cash flow position, you need to understand that it works backwards. So when you start a job, you go deep into the red immediately. Suppliers want payment. Your team needs payroll, right? Payroll doesn't stop. You still have to float payroll, and your equipment rentals or your leases, they're charged, right? So your insurance, your fuel, all those expenses, all that overhead, all of that doesn't wait. But your client's payment, sometimes that's taken 30, 45, 60, 90 days, right? And that's where some builders actually, in fact, intentionally slow pay you because your pain is their float. So your partnerships also become a bit of a stress point. So why does good work, why good work really doesn't protect you from bankruptcy? And it's because it's all about that cash timing. So how do we get in front of this front-loaded cost versus back-loaded payment trap? let's give you an example of what I see out there. And I've actually lived this, with a client just recently. Start a $100,000 job. Okay. In the first 30 days, they spent $20,000 on labor, 35,000 on materials, 10,000 on equipment, fuel and overhead. Total cash out was 65 grand. Okay. So let's do the math, pretty straightforward. On your first draw when you get paid, it's $30,000 at day 45. So you got $35,000 out of pocket, right? And that's on a job that technically wasn't even profitable. So that's the construction trap. So upfront costs, low payments, cash starvation. And this is exactly why a lot of contractors get paid. It's that game, right? So how do you get in front of this? The first topic that I like to touch on is deposits. You must front load your deposits. If you're doing residential or small commercial, 30 to 50% deposits before anything starts. And really what I'm finding is 50% is the right number, not 30. Okay? Because this will help you cover materials on site and start a billable milestone that should be somewhere around that balance of 25, 20, and so on. Whatever's left, 5% at the end. Okay? For builders and general contractors, I would actually push, and this is really important, push for biweekly billing, not a percentage of completion. Because I have found it that when you're waiting for a percentage of completion, in fact, what's happening is that you are then waiting for your team to complete jobs. You're then waiting for materials potentially to still be drawn back before you start to invoice and start that cycle 30, 45, 60 days. So I like to position a bi-weekly invoicing. And in fact, that's what we did with this organization. And add mobilization fees up front as well. If you're traveling, get those costs up front. Bills that are based on deliverables, again, not on a percentage of completion, right? And charge interest on overdue invoices. A lot of people forget to do this. They say they're going to do them, they don't actually do them, and it continues to be a problem. So this is another one, send conditional lien notices early. Set those prior to you starting your job. Put the wording inside your contracts that you will send out liens. So to ensure that you protect yourself. Now, for large commercial, a line of credit is a must-have. You must establish this. And you must establish the right vendor terms. Okay? Generally, those vendor terms need to be around that 30, 45 or longer to allow you to have that window so that you pay them later, not first. Okay? You must tie billing to approvals, materials delivered, inspections, and engineering sign-offs. You got to get all that out of the way. And the rule I want you to tattoo in your brain today, if anything, is never start a job that you can't afford to float. But even better, stop floating the jobs. Like that's really what you should be looking at doing. Remember that your client is not your bank, right? So don't be throwing your money in there until you get, you should be getting them to pay you first and then start the jobs. This is where most contractors fail because working capital is a strain and becomes a strain. So because they treat cash flow like a wish and not a system. So let's talk some tools. Again, I position the line of credit as the first one. I have to tell you, a line of credit is not a luxury. A lot of general contractors, a lot of folks in this type of industry believe that it is, and it's not a luxury. It's reality that it's an oxygen to your business, right? The size of this line of credit should be around 10 to 20% of your annual revenue. That's what you should be looking for. That's the sweet spot. Interest only when drawn. So when you set that up, like make sure that it has those terms. Okay? Interest only when drawn. Not you're paying interest when you have that cash sitting idle. And only used for timing gaps. Do not use this to cover losses. Okay? Do not go into the paycheck to paycheck rule or payday to payday loan rule. This is really important for your line of credit. If you do not have a line of credit, you're running a business really blindfolded. That's the way that I like to think about it, is because you just don't know where you're going to step or what landmine, what pothole you're going to step into next. The next tool that I encourage everyone to have, and this one's huge, is vendor credit terms. 30, 45 days. You have to have these. Okay. Another one is fuel cards. Important that you have specific fuel cards. I saw so many service companies that go out and buy fuel either with credit cards and or cash. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Number one, if you're paying retail, you're getting burned. Like, go set up an account with a Petro Pass. You're gonna buy in bulk. You're gonna get terms that are gonna give you 45, 60 days. And that leaves you some time before you have to pay that fuel bill. And I'm shocked at how many times I go into organizations and large ones. I'm not talking like small startups. I'm talking about, 3 to $8 million accounts, businesses that don't have fuel cards. Big no no. Okay. The next one is rental accounts. If you need equipment and you're not buying those equipment, like you're not buying machinery, but you're renting it for your jobs, establish rental accounts again with net terms. And the same for bulk material purchases, right? Do not go pay for those up front. Make sure that you have those, because every day that you extend those terms is a day you don't burn your cash. Okay. The next one is cash reserves, and this is the gold standard. A minimum of 1 to 2 payroll cycles. A minimum. Okay. Target 5 to 10% of your annual revenue saved. You want to make sure you have some savings to cover this. Locked reserves, so no touching it unless it's an emergency. Get into some really good practices. This is your breathing room. Do not think about this as anything else but that. That's your breathing space. It's your survival space. And factoring. Now, I want to be careful with this because this you have to use with discipline. You can only use factoring if you're growing fast, if you've guaranteed payouts, and or collections are slow, and the margins can absorb the cost. If factoring is your core strategy, you're skating on thin ice, my friends. Okay. And so use it as a bridge, but not a foundation. Okay. Those are some of the tools. And now we're going to jump into some specific pricing and cost mistakes that particularly drain your cash. Okay. So if pricing is wrong, your cash will always be wrong. It will always be wrong. So, so here's the major sins. Okay. Sin number one, mistake number one, underestimating your labor. Man, I've seen this so many times. So many times. You go in, somebody provides a quote, they underquote labor by 15, 25% every single time. Okay. You want to know what they're missing? They're missing mistake number two, overhead. They charge for the guys in the field, but they're not charging for the folks in the office. But the folks in the office still got to do work for that job, right? The admin, they still got to process invoices. There's still time there, right? The overhead, the building, the heat, the internet, right? The insurance, the fuel, all of this stuff. How about the owner's salary? Who's paying the owner's salary? Right? All of that is got to be completed and compiled in that overhead and brought back to that labor quote and to that full labor quote. So if you don't allocate this, the job will look profitable on paper, but when you're done, you'll bleed out cash in real life. Okay. So it's critical that you cover mistake one and two because they blend together. All right. The third one, I sort of touched on it, is that you're not charging for mobilization. That's travel, setup, teardown, fuel, delivery, equipment staging. All of this is billable. It's all billable time, right? Because guess who's charging you, right? Your workers. If they're on the job, they're clocked in, they're driving, they're charging you. So you should be charging your project to that. That time needs to get allocated somewhere. So if you don't look at those and you forget about them, those eat up cash like crazy. They will go through, they will burn your cash quick. So always look for travel, setup, teardowns, delivery. Those are the critical ones that you look through. Mistake number four, change orders. And we've heard this in calls here before, but change orders is a nasty one. And this could even be applied to like projects, IT projects like Tyler's involved in, because if someone comes back to you and they start changing things after you've already had a quote and a cost set in mind, that one's gonna be tricky too, because that is another one of those killers that destroys your cash flow, because it's unbilled. And if you did the extra work without signing a contract agreement and understanding of what that scope is, man, you just lit your cash on fire. I just had a business owner tell me the other day that they had a change order that escalated from a startup job that was $10,000. And by the time they were done, it was a $60,000 job. $50,000 on change orders. Guess what's being disputed right now? Guess who fronted all that labor and material, right? It's insane. So change orders is a big one. Okay. Keep that one. Like, you got to invoice it. You got to collect, treat it as if it's a different contract, get a deposit, set the terms, make sure you establish your grounds of or rules of engagement for that extra work before you start to do it. Okay. And mistake number 5 is doing work before deposits hit. So this one will break your company. So rule number, whatever you want to call it, but it's you can't break this one, is no materials ordered until deposits land in your bank account. No labor scheduled until materials are actually on site. Okay? You don't do that. Period. You just can't afford to do it. Okay? Now, let's go in. Those are the mistakes. So let's talk about how do you turn this into a structure that helps you win in 2026, right? This is the model I suggest that you run with, because I've seen so many people win when they do it this way. They front load deposits, okay? Deposits must cover all your materials and, again, your early payroll. Minimum 2 payroll cycles. So that's why I'm now leaning to a 50% deposit opportunity. Okay. Biweekly billing. Shorten your pay cycle. Monthly billing is too long. And for sure, if you're progress billing as a percentage of job completion, that is a sin. Do not do that. Okay. You will burn your cash. So every 2 weeks, just put it on your contract. We're going to invoice you every 2 weeks because you've got labor to pay every 2 weeks. So why not get paid? Okay. This makes sure that every job gets a labor plan, a material plan, and a cost to completion, a cash flow forecast, and working capital for the requirement of this job. And this way you avoid surprises. Okay. Number 4, you set up those vendor terms and lines of credits. Stretch your outflow, accelerate your inflow. That's the formula that you're working with. And then you attack that gap from both sides, right? You get paid sooner, you stretch your payables later. That ensures that you get your money in. And you cash reserve bucket. If you're in one of these type of companies without reserves, this is a company living on pure faith. Now, I'm a man of faith, but I can tell you, I wouldn't do business on faith. Okay. So you need to make sure you establish yourself correctly, because hope is not a financial strategy. So let's make sure that you set yourself up right for this. Now, step into a weekly cash huddle. And I talk about huddles a lot, but this is an OBS 101. Every week, you review your cash in, your cash out, your upcoming draws, and any problem jobs, anything that's got to do with the overdue invoices and payroll requirements, because cash clarity equals leadership clarity and cash control. Okay. Stop doing unfunded work. No more starting jobs without money. No more paying banks for clients. No more being the hero. I know you get into the hero mode because you want to take care of your customers. I know that's what drives you to get here. But ultimately, that's what's going to kill your cash flow. So growth without cash equals collapse. Okay. So the truth is, most contractors don't fail from bad workmanship. They fail from bad cash discipline. And this industry will punish people who don't manage timing, structure, and risk. And that's not just in general contractors. This is in a lot of businesses. But once you understand the rules of the game, once you build properly, once you protect your cash, and once you create that working capital, your entire business shifts. You stop surviving, you start scaling, you stop chasing every payment, you start controlling them because you set the terms in advance. We told you how to do that. Okay. And you stop living job to job. You start building a company that builds you wealth. So remember, we don't go broke doing good work. We go broke floating the work. Okay. But not anymore. We're going to stop that now. So let's build a business in 2026 that'll never run out of oxygen. Right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how we can dive a little deeper into some of these principles and maybe what you've seen out there in your own world and how you've survived these bottlenecks. That's a wrap for today's episode of The Inner Circle. If something in today's conversation resonated, inspired you, or gave you a breakthrough, please share it with someone you care about. The right idea at the right time can change someone's business and their life. So make sure you follow the show, leave a review, and stay connected with us, because this community is built on relationships, real support, and real growth together. Remember that clarity means nothing without action. So choose one insight from today, put it into motion this week, and notice the shift. Thank you for being part of this journey, for showing up for your growth, and for being part of the Inner Circle community. See you in the next episode, and let's keep growing together.